Welcome to the 2021 Fitzpatrick Clan Gathering. I'm Steve Zaleski. I'll be presenting an introduction to the Fitzpatrick Multimedia Archive. We'll begin with covering some history, then what the archive can do for you and how to get started with it, and continue with the function of the three screen areas, and conclude with a case study of Kathleen Mitchell. During research for the descendants of Brian Fitzpatrick, Ronan and I encountered a variety of media types: paper documents, photos, books, digital documents and photos, PowerPoint presentations, and internet postings. We often needed to compare these resources for verification, inconsistency, or additional information. For example, what resources did we have related to Bernard Edward Barnaby Fitzpatrick? Sometimes the information we needed was distributed among stacks of papers, books, digital images, or on the internet. So our problem was how to effectively search all of our research material by any text, media type, individual, or family line, and display or print the results. Effective retrieval will require descriptions for hundreds of multimedia, categorizing each type and identifying each entry with a family line. We also needed a flexible search method based on any or all of these characteristics. We needed to record the source for each of these items for future reference. And we needed the ability to display or print individual or groups of multimedia that satisfied any search criteria. And finally, we needed the ability to locate anyone in a descendancy of a family line. The Fitzpatrick Multimedia Archive, or FMA, was created to meet these needs. And now the archive is available to any researcher free of charge. The FMA currently contains 350 multimedia entries. There are images of notable Fitzpatricks and pedigrees, castles, maps, tables of content, documents, book extracts, coats of arms, censuses, vital records, and memorials. The sources include the National Library of Ireland, the National Archives of Ireland, Trinity College Library, Lambeth Palace Library, the Church of Ireland, the Russell Library, the National Archives of England, personal collections, and a host of internet websites. Each archive entry is identified by its connection to either the Bairn, Arran, or Deer Park lines. A general research category also provides research sources not connected to a specific line. Our intention is to add new entries to the archive as they are found. We'll also expand the documented Fitzpatrick family lines and include their descendancy charts as well. These additions and updates will be made available over the internet and notifications made through several methods, including the list, the newsletter, and our website. Let's take a look at a few of the archive contents. Here is a memorial monument at Cloud Chapel in County Laois to the principal ancestors of Barnaby, the second Baron Castletown of Upper Ossory. This is a brass stall plate of General Sir Geoffrey Richard Desmond Fitzpatrick in the Lady Chapel in Westminster Abbey in London. The east window of St. James the Apostle Church in Grafton-Underwood, England, in memory of John Wilson Fitzpatrick, Lord Castletown. The Fitzpatrick cenotaphs of Inishmore in the Aran Islands. The inscription at right is one of 8 and reads, "Pray for Patrick Fitzpatrick and his wife, Margaret Fitzpatrick, who erected this monument in the year of our Lord 1754, and their posterity. So, what can the FMA do for you? It can provide an in-depth insight into general Fitzpatrick history, as well as individual family histories, by providing capabilities to search by Fitzpatrick line, multimedia type, or any text. You can display and print copies of original documents from major Fitzpatrick authors, and display descendancy charts of some major Fitzpatrick lines with more to come. And you can display source references for all entries. To get started with the archive, download these 3 documents from the Research tab at the URL shown. Read the FMA introduction, which will provide an overview of the archive. Follow the installation instructions describing where to download and install the required files. Then read the user manual that will provide tutorials in the use of the archive. After installing, opening the archive, and accepting the usage terms, you'll see the following screen. This is the main screen, and it is composed of 3 areas. The top left area is the search area. This is where you enter search criteria and preview or print a formatted report for all items displayed in the display area, or reset the search fields. The display area in the lower part of the screen shows the results of search criteria, displays and prints individual items, and views sources. The descendancy area is in the top right of the screen, and it contains the legend for the colors in the display area and displays descendancy charts. First, we'll review the search area. This is the part of the screen where you define what you're looking for. Help for each search field is available by selecting the button with a question mark on the row of interest. Select the research category from the list by first selecting all FMA, or limit your search to a line of descendants from the lines shown, or choose the general category for items of a general interest. The general research category contains items that are not connected to one of the documented Fitzpatrick lines in the FMA. Among these are indexes to other sources, unpublished manuscripts, tables of content, photos of headstones, Bible extracts, items of general Fitzpatrick history, and published Fitzpatrick genealogies. Let's take a look at a few examples of items from the general research category. This document is an extract from the family Bible of a Barney Fitzpatrick containing members of his family with marriage and birth dates. It's currently not connected to a documented Fitzpatrick line. Note the fatherly advice at the bottom left, providing some insight into Barney. Now, my son, I hope you will beware of ill company or vice that would be prejudicial to your soul. These field notes of Reverend Shearman, author of Loca Patriciana, from the Russian Library show the descendants of Captain John Fitzpatrick and Bridget Phelan. These notes are not contained in any other Shearman publication. This final example is an index to Fitzpatrick baptisms from the Kilronan Parish on the Aran Islands. These last 3 slides containing names not connected to the 3 documented lines of Fitzpatrick's, but may contain names of interest to a Fitzpatrick researcher. After selecting the research category, select the media type of interest. Media type may be limited by selecting one of the media types of document, photo, scanned document, or slideshow. The difference between a document and a scanned document is that a document is stored in its native format, for example, MS Word, text, PDF, and so on. A scanned document is originally a paper document that has been digitally scanned to produce a photo of the document. Then enter any text in the search field to search all descriptions in the archive containing that text. After entering the search criteria, select the magnifier to show the FMA items that match all the search criteria entered. This screen displays all descriptions containing the text search for William. The background colors relate to the descendant lines shown at the top right of this screen. A preview of the formatted report contains all FMA items that match the search criteria and displays the results to the screen. This formatted report includes all items that match the search criteria and the sources for each item. Selecting the printer icon prints the formatted report just shown to the default printer. Selecting Reset will clear the search fields and return them to their default values. Searches for heraldry-related items may be done at two levels: all heraldry or limited to any one of three heraldic components. Search for heraldry to find all heraldry-related items, or you can search for either arms, crest, or motto to find only those containing that heraldic component. To see all heraldry items, enter heraldry and select the magnifier. But suppose you are interested in finding only photos of heraldic crest in the Aaron line. No problem. Just enter the values in the search area and FMA shows the results in the display area. Shown here is FMA 349 containing a Fitzpatrick crest of the Aaron line, a section of the stained glass window at the Woodland Manor Hotel in Bedford, England. The second area of the FMA screen is the display area. The display area is the part of the screen that shows the results that satisfy your search criteria. The first column of the display area contains a unique number for the FMA item. The description is the next column and describes the FMA item. When the description requires more than 2 lines, placing the cursor in this field will display scroll bars to the right of this field. The media type is the next column, followed by a checkbox if the item is protected by copyright. Selecting the magnifier icon will display the FM item to the monitor as shown here. FMA1 shows one of a series of pages of Harriman genealogies from O'Hart's 1892 book. This page describes the genealogical progression of Mac-Llifodrigh and the changing of his name to Fitzpatrick. Some archive items are copyrighted, and the FMA honors all copyrights. The descriptions of some copyrighted items are included, but not the items themselves. Some copyrighted items are available on the internet, although a sign-in or a subscription is sometimes necessary. If authorized, FMA will patch you through to the copyrighted item on the website through a screen like this. If you have one of the supported browsers, that is Firefox, Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, or Microsoft Edge, you can just press the Internet button at the bottom of the screen. If you have a different browser, you can copy this link using Control-C and paste it to your own browser. Returning to the main screen, the print icon will print the archive item to the default printer, and the book icon will display its source. The source shows where the FMA item originated. In this case, our source is John O'Hart's 1892 book, Irish Pedigrees, or The Origin and Stem of the Irish Nation. The repository may contain a URL for further research of this source. The third area of the screen is the descendancy area. This area shows the colors of the descendancy lines in the background colors of the description and provides access to descendancy charts. These colors reflect the background colors of the descriptions in the display area and indicate to which line the FMA description relates. Selecting one of the colored boxes will display a chart of the descendants of that line. The barren line is too large to display. A help screen is shown for navigating the chart and changing the scale. Selecting the Aaron line will show the Aaron line chart. The Aaron line chart displays the known descendants from Dennis Fitzpatrick. The chart may be enlarged as necessary, as shown here. We'll now conclude with a case study of Kathleen Mitchell to illustrate what the FMA can add to Fitzpatrick research. Here's the scenario. You find a photo of a woman in a trunk of family photos. On the back of the photo is written Kathleen Mitchell. Who was she and who are her family members? We enter her name in the search field and see an entry for Kathleen Mitchell. Selecting the magnifier for FMA 183 displays the multimedia for this entry. You determine that FMA 183 is the same person as in the photo from the trunk. The archive records her maiden name as Fitzpatrick. Now we can search the archive for Kathleen Fitzpatrick. Replacing Kathleen Mitchell with Kathleen Fitzpatrick produces this screen. As we read the descriptions, the most interesting is FMA 346, so we select its magnifier. Her funeral card shows the date and age at death, allowing her birthday to be approximated at 1896. But is the Kathleen Fitzpatrick in FMA 33 the one in our photo? Now we can return to look at the 1901 Ireland census to see if our Kathleen Fitzpatrick is indeed the one in our photo. We find Kathleen Fitzpatrick, born about 1897. This is a strong indicator that this Kathleen is the one in our photo. She also has a brother, also born about 1897, and we also find two other siblings and her parents, Michael and Mary Fitzpatrick. Now we check to see if the archive has anything for a Michael Fitzpatrick with a wife named Mary. We find several, but the most interesting is a scanned document of a family tree of a Michael Fitzpatrick and Mary Phelan, the same names as are in the 1901 census that are parents of Kathleen Fitzpatrick Mitchell. We then take a look at this family tree. We see the family tree, but it's a little too small to see clearly, so we enlarge it. Now we can see Kathleen Fitzpatrick and brother Thomas with the notation below, both born in 1896. So we're confident that this is the same family as shown in the 1901 census. Her other siblings are shown, as well as parents Michael Fitzpatrick and Mary Phelan, the first indication of Mary's maiden name. Since the FMA background is in yellow, we know that this family is from the Deer Park line, and we can now look at a more complete Deer Park line. We can select the Deer Park line and see how our Kathleen Fitzpatrick Mitchell's family relates to other Fitzpatricks. This is the Deer Park Fitzpatrick chart, but not very readable at this scale, so we zoom in. Here we find our Kathleen Fitzpatrick and husband John Mitchell and 6 children. Marriage date and children's birth dates are likely in the early 1900s, as Kathleen was born in 1896. We also find her brother Thomas, born in the same year, and her other siblings, and her parents Michael Fitzpatrick and Mary Phelan. If we now follow Kathleen's paternal ancestry, we find Florence Fitzpatrick of Deer Park, who lived 200 years before her. So the FMA has brought to light the maiden name of Kathleen Mitchell in the photo, her husband's name, the names of their 6 children, her parents' and siblings' names, her mother's maiden name, several dozen of her ancestors and collateral lines with many dates of birth and death, and a paternal ancestry for 200 years. From a photo in a trunk. To recap what we covered today, we looked at some history of the FMA, what the FMA can do for you and how you can get started, the functions of the 3 screen areas, and the case study of Kathleen Mitchell. Thanks for your attention. We now have a few minutes for questions. You can unmute yourself, raise your hand, and pose your question when called upon.